Okay, I call the December 15th meeting of the school committee to order. Let me do a quick walk through the agenda, and then we're going to jump right into a celebration this evening, which is always a great way to start these meetings. We'll do a celebration. We've got the 2022-2023 Mass Association of School Superintendents Certificate of Academic Excellence recipients, who we will honor this evening. We'll move into public comment for anything that's not on the agenda. We'll take our consent agenda. We'll go through our typical sort of cycle of reports. And then in the new business section, Ms. Buckley is here for the high school improvement plan, which we will review and ideally approve this evening. And then Ms. Baton will take us through our quarterly financial update. So that's the July through September quarter. And then we'll also have a kind of a preview of the budget process that lies ahead in January. We'll adjourn for an executive session. I shouldn't say adjourn. We adjourn to an executive session, the primary topic of which is to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, so specifically the central office admin staff and our principals. We'll also take executive session minutes up during that meeting as well. We will return from executive session, and we've got a host of policy updates to review. So second readings of 4 policies that we reviewed last time, and then first reading of 4 additional policies, and that should conclude the evening's activities. So Ms. McLaughlin's not with us tonight. Ms. Gaffin will be here probably 45 minutes or so. She's at a middle school band concert tonight, which we certainly understand, sticking around for that. So she'll join us in just a little bit. So with that, I think Dr. Milichewski, I'm going to hand it to you.
Great. All right, good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you. Thanks for being here. We are excited tonight to share and to honor 2 outstanding members of our RMHS community, 2 seniors, for their tremendous academic accomplishment. So across the state each year, there is a prestigious award called the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendent, or MASS, a Certificate of Academic Excellence. And the amount of certificates that are provided for each school depends on the school size. So a school of the size of RMHS, we're provided with 2. Our guidance team is tasked with looking through sort of all of our seniors and finding sort of a couple of the many worthy recipients who could represent RMHS and our larger Reading community as the recipients of the award. So tonight, I'd like to share the recipients of our awards and also bring them up for a picture and hopefully to get in the newspaper. So first one we have here tonight, Brendan Manning. So you can wait. We'll bring you up in 1 second. I'm going to read a little bit about Brendan. This was provided by his counselor. They said they could write much more, and they said, please make sure that I had it only could be 1 paragraph. So Brendan Manning is an exceptional scholar, community member, and leader. He has prepared himself for a career in engineering by taking our most challenging courses and excelling in each one. In addition to his rigorous course load, Brendan was named a National Merit Commended Student in the fall due to his impressive scores on the PSATs. Brendan is an avid member of our robotics team and has played a critical role in the competitions. Additionally, he impressively worked his way up through Boy Scouts and has recently achieved Eagle Scout status. When not working on robotics or spending time with the Eagle Scouts, Brendan can be found participating in a senior leadership position with mock trial or performing alongside his classmates in our marching band. RMHS is incredibly proud of Brendan's accomplishments and successes, and we know he will continue to impress us in the next chapter of his life. So please join me in congratulating Brendan on this tremendous honor. Brendan, come on up. We have something to bring with you as you move on to the next level. All right. Maybe a certificate as well. Congratulations. Thank you.
We want to take a photo? Can we all move around to the front? Yeah.
All right.
Are we all going?
Yeah, let's all go.
We're eligible this time, Sean, so.
Last time they were like, our other one is not able to attend, which I'll give you the name.
Thank you.
Do you know where you're going to go to college?
I do not yet. I've gotten like 1 decision back so far.
So I also should have said, while Brennan's walking back, a few of the criteria for the award. First is academic excellence within the school community. So some of the criteria used there are GPA, class rank. Another criteria of the award is other academic accomplishments. So for example, Brennan's status as a National Merit Commended Scholar. And then the last other piece is just contributions to the RMHS community. And I think we just outlined several of the many that Brendan held here. So thank you, Brendan. Huge congratulations. Our second recipient who's not here with us tonight is Abigail Lebovich, and I'll tell you why she's not here. She made a commitment to go to her friend's violin concert and then said that she could not break that promise. And I think that speaks worlds about her. Says she wishes she could be here. So I'm going to read a little bit about Abigail. Abigail Lebovich is an outstanding student who has dedicated her high school career to achieving academic excellence. Throughout her time at Reading Memorial High School, Abigail has consistently pushed herself to learn at the highest possible level. She was a student eager to jump into AP-level courses and has found success through her hard work and dedication to learning. Now, as a senior, Abigail is taking one of the most rigorous course loads offered, including 4 AP classes, and is performing exceptionally well in all of them. Earlier this year, Abigail was also named a National Merit semifinalist, which is a true testament to her work ethic and commitment to her education. Abigail's passion for learning extends far beyond the classroom walls as the president of the Science Olympiad team. Within her role, she works tirelessly to support her teammates and grow the program as a whole. We are all so proud of the time and effort Abigail has put in over her years in the Reading Public Schools, and we're excited to see all the incredible accomplishments she will go on to achieve. So another huge congratulations to Abigail. And a small anecdote from conversations with the counseling team is that they feel that there's always a lot of worthy recipients within the RMHS community, and they'd also like to share that this year seemed especially difficult. This is a really remarkable senior class, particularly when you look at just some of the academic accomplishments of so many of our students. So these are probably the first of many awards that will come this year. And again, thank you to our counseling team, thank you to our teachers for their nominations, and most importantly, huge thank you and congratulations to Brendan and to Abigail.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Milichewski, and congratulations again. Thank you. Okay, so let's move to public comment for anything not on the agenda this evening. Mrs. Haley, you want to get us started?
Thank you, Sean. Is it on? Oh,
It doesn't sound like it.
no.
Is there?
Oh, wait. Is it on? Yeah, now it is. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it. Amanda Haley, 71 Tennyson. I had to cut this so that it would be just 2 minutes, but if you can try and hear me out, this is a positive public comment.
For what it's worth, you have 3 minutes. So,
Oh, wow, so not select board rules.
which would have been true whether it's positive or not, to be clear. Like, we're content neutral
Okay,
here, but
perfect.
it is 3 minutes.
Oh, perfect, okay, great. So I don't need to rush through it. I'm here tonight to tell you a story about our daughter who's in the 5th grade here at RPS. Our daughter is an extremely gifted child when it comes to academics. School has never come hard for her. At age 4, she was reading. At age 5, she was reading fluently. At mid-elementary age, she tested near genius IQ. You may think, wow, you are lucky as parents to have such an incredibly smart child where things come easy. No need for extra tutoring, long hours of guidance at home, tears, and teaching her to read and write. While that may be the case, having a gifted child also has its difficulties. From the early years, we were told things like, she is never paying attention. She stares off into space. But if we ask her a question, she always knows the answer. She needs to pay attention and participate. When we would discuss this with her, she would say, I'm just bored. The summer of COVID, we prayed and became active in the school committee meetings in hopes that the school would be back in session so she could get back into the building doing what she loved to do most, learn. We returned to the building that fall, but in cohorts. Well, that was the year that everything came to a head. We were part of a parent-led pod. Her behavior was concerning to us. We would get reports from the supervising moms, including myself and her mom, I'm the stepmom, that she would have YouTube running in the bottom corner of her screen. We would get reports from the teacher saying that she's going ahead in lessons. During the in-school weeks, the teachers would tell us similar things that we had heard in previous years. She's just not paying attention, but if I call on her, she knows exactly what she's supposed to say, as if she were looking right at me. She never ever participates. I just need her to participate more. We ask ourselves, why, if our child is so smart, is she not participating? What is it that is causing her to not want to be active in class? It was then that she told us this: I don't want to participate because everyone says to me, and they talk about me all the time, you know everything. You always know the answers. You are the smartest ever. I'm just bored, Amanda. Daddy, I'm bored. Imagine that feeling, right? I can't take part because I don't want to make others feel bad or that they're not as good as me. And I can't pay attention because I'm bored. Thankfully, her teacher in the 3rd grade that year understood that. We had a great conversation. She came up with a plan about how she could participate and make her feel comfortable participating in class. They gave her writing challenges and contests to write. The same conversation was had with the new teachers as she was entering the 4th grade. She had a phenomenal year that year because the teachers understood her. They got her. They set the bar high for her and set her expectations a little bit higher. Now here we are, 3 months into the 5th grade. 2 weeks ago, Autumn and I were in the, sorry, I didn't mean to say her name. We were in the car. She said, Amanda, can I tell you something? This is typically where we have our very thoughtful conversations. I said, sure, honey, of course. For the first time in school, I feel challenged in reading. I really like that feeling. It's a lot different for me. I started to cry. I looked in the rearview mirror and said, honey, tell me more. I want to hear all about this. Well, you know, I've never been challenged. I've always been bored at school. And maybe if we had this new program that we're doing back when I was in 1st grade, things would have been better and different for me. But I'm happy that the little kids now will have the same program. I said, Autumn, I said it again, I'm sorry. This makes me so happy. The team put a lot of work into this. All the meetings that Daddy would have to go to, where we were sad when he wasn't home for bedtime, he was advocating for this program to get the votes in order that we need to get the money to pay for this. I, too, wish you had it, but you know what? Your little sister is going to have that, and forever I will be grateful. She said, me too, I'm so happy she'll have that. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Milichewski, Sarah Hardy, Sean, Carla, Tom, Chuck, Sarah, and Aaron, all of the principals, the central office, the assistant superintendent, the tutors, reading specialists, special education teachers, coaches, the parent committee board, and to the select board, who when it mattered most voted 5-0 in support of funding the purchase of this program. I just can't possibly read every single one of the 47 names who researched and worked endlessly to make this happen for our kids. But I want you to give yourself a round of applause and a pat on the back because you made a huge change and led a huge change in Reading. Our school system will continue to grow better. And for that, we can never thank you enough. Your work clearly does not go unnoticed by parents or even 5th graders. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Saley. Anything else from a public comment perspective? I think I know why everyone else is here, so I'm going to guess no. Okay. So let's move on to the consent agenda. Before we take a motion on the consent agenda, just a note to the committee. I realized as I was walking in tonight that I failed to provide minutes to Susan Brown about our other meeting we had on that same night with the Student Advisory Committee, so we'll have those in our next packet, because that's obviously a public meeting as well, and we'll have to approve minutes. So we'll have that in the next one. Carla, is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
And is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Tom. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? It carries 4-0. Okay, let's move to reports. We will start with Ms. Baton.
This evening, I'd like to use my report time to acknowledge our deep appreciation and gratitude to a small group of staff members who work very diligently behind the scenes to make sure that our teachers and our administrators' needs for technology are in place. We have our technology team who work extremely hard, very long hours, to ensure that all of our systems, our network, our data is working and functioning in the way that we need it in order to instruct and carry on with our duties. I wanted to share with you some of the areas that they're responsible for and actually name them this evening. They oversee the network infrastructure, 4,500 computer devices, 750 iPads and tablets are under their purview, 300 smart board panels. They provide help desk support to our teachers and administrators. They're responsible for all of the phones in our district, PA systems, clocks, and bell systems. They're responsible for cloud-based services, single sign-on for our instructional applications, security systems, POS service for food service, and they support town and school department meetings like the one this evening. And I'd like to name them this evening. Scott Mullen is one of our staff members who's here supporting the school committee meeting. In addition, there's Andy Strutt, Rob Bailey, AJ Broussard, Chris Pedro, Mike Donahue, and Julian Carr, who's the network administrator. And without their support, there is absolutely no way we could do what we do. So wanted to recognize everyone for that.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Dr. Milichewski.
Great. Just one quick update, then a quick thank you. In terms of updates, as we shared earlier this year, we've implemented for substitutes what we call surge pay. So on days where we know there's going to be sort of high need, we've upped the pay to $125 an hour for substitute teaching. So I'd just like to put that out there to the community. We have obviously seen battling a lot of different illnesses across across our schools, so we're kind of, in need of substitute teachers. So if you know anyone who's home from college, anyone who may think about getting in there, helping out the next week and a half or so, or actually next 6 days, it's going to be surge pay for the next 6 days. So please help spread the word. We would love anyone to come support our schools. We could definitely use you for the next week and a half. Also, Jen, my only other update is just to share a thank you to Al. So if you don't know, tonight is Al Sylvia's last night covering the school committee. Al was sharing on the way in that it has been about 10 years of covering the school committee. I know Al has plans. I don't want to go too far, but it depends with his family up in New Hampshire, which sounds like more fun probably than being here with us. But just like to, I know in our short time, all the support and collaboration and all the dedication that you've shown to the community and to our schools. And I know that's probably a bittersweet moment, but thank you for all your work for the schools.
Al, do you get to retire because of the pay you received for doing this for 10 years?
Yeah, that's it.
Great. Okay, and then liaison reports. Why don't we start with Chuck?
Okay, I have a few. A couple weeks back, I attended the Hall of Fame dinner, and that's the Hall of Fame dinners every couple of years. They induct, I think it's 8 and believe me, 8 is enough because it's all evening, and it's just a wonderful night. And probably over 300 people there. But I did want to mention, just the reason why I bring it up is one of the inductees this year was probably my first year on the school committee. He was graduating at that time. He graduated in 2008, I think it was. Anyway, Jim Queenie. The reason why I bring him up, and because you like to not leave other people out, is he was also the valedictorian that year, and captain of the lacrosse team, and captain of the football team, and captain of the track team, and still managed to be the valedictorian. Ended up getting a lacrosse scholarship to Colgate, and he's now an actuary. So it really was just gave a wonderful speech and just showed where, he's just what we're trying to turn out every year here, that well-rounded, educated, extracurricular student. So, and there were many other great inductees as well, but I did want to mention Jim. He was actually, I left one thing out, he was also the school committee liaison. He was our student. So anyway, so that's a great event. The next other reports I have, we had our first Simons, I don't know all the acronyms, so I'm just going to call it the Simons Committee on Monday night. It was basically an organization. Carlo is the chair, and I reluctantly said I'd be the vice chair. So we'll see how that goes. There's a lot of work to do in a short period of time to do it in. So our first committee meeting is January 18th. We also, Recreation met as well Monday night. That was a pretty robust agenda. I will just point out one thing that we did talk about was they've put together a program which is with a company in Peabody called Inclusive Sports that's going to roll out in the summer, and it's designed for, so the Reading Recreation will have a T-ball sign up every year, and so there's some kids that need a little more instruction or whatever. They're going to have teams for those kids as well. So it's going to be, it's I guess, very well used in other Middlesex towns, so we'll see how it goes. But they're doing that, and as you know, our ARPA reps know, the ARPA committee gave money to the Y to do the adaptive swimming, so that's also something. And there were several other things that we went over, but I won't dig into all of those. The other meeting, I guess that was it. I'll leave the policy report to you. So thank you, Sean.
Excellent segue. Tom?
So I'll cover the policy report, then I'm going to take a brief minute to thank a bunch of people for some stuff over the last few weekends as well. So policy-wise, we had our meeting this past Wednesday. We reviewed 4 policies, 1 which we tabled, and 3 that we have moved forward for, whenever the next chance is for us to review. I don't know if Sean has to technically provide the notification, but there are 3 that are coming our direction, so.
That will suffice for the
will suffice
notification,
that.
yep.
There are 3 that are coming our direction for a single meeting review. So that was good, and that's done. We have pretty rigorous schedule throughout the rest of the year. There's about 48 overall policies to review in the period of time, some of which are easy, some of which are going to be difficult, and we'll work it through, and we have basically a monthly meeting, at least a monthly meeting until May or so. It's possible we might get a couple meetings in February, but we'll see how things work from there. And I appreciate as well the collaborative nature with the administrative team. There's been a lot of feedback, a lot of, can you look at this one, can you look at that one, that have helped us improve things from an operational perspective too, I think. So some of which are on tonight's agenda. So there's that. And then my little soapbox here, thank you. The Sue, thank you. You may not get enough thank yous, but the way that you and Dr. Mosier and Holly Beth Murphy and Ms. Donovan came together to help and support the students putting on Scrooge, and pulling that off was amazing. Those students did a great job, but they wouldn't have done it without your help, and you were behind the scenes. So come forward, I would say, from out behind the curtain, and I just want to say thank you to the 4 of you for doing that work and the work that was done there. Also add, the administrative team, here and at the high school, some with us, Katie, Mrs. Buckley, Dr. Milichewski, Mr. Tracy, and others joined into the fun. Mr. Zaya joined into the fun, and they got to be part of the show, delivering a 20-pound turkey to Mr. Scrooge after he had his turn for the better. So it's always great to see that kind of interaction between the students and the staff, and the love that was demonstrated as that was going as well. So thank you for all the work there. Dr. Mosier didn't stop there, because he had his big concert last night. And I know that, I think Mr. Mulligan might be having a concert tonight as well, or something like that. So it's an ongoing thing, and Select Choir is going to be busy again this weekend with caroling going Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So those students haven't stopped, and those teachers, staff and whatnot haven't stopped, and the support they provided for those students is amazing, and I just wanted to call that out and say thank you. So.
Excellent. Carla?
No report.
Okay, just a few quick reports. So one is, I sort of subbed in for Aaron in last Tuesday Select Board meeting. They had kind of the first sort of full update from Dr. Chatterjee, the Director of Equity and Social Justice. So I joined that meeting. She shared all the wonderful things she's been working on the town side, within the library, and certainly working with Dr. Milichewski and the team on the school side as well. So lots of goodness going on there. There was quite a large turnout, probably 40 or so people turned out for that, and the overflow room was full as well. So really good turnout for that. it raised in my mind, I think, something for us to think about is there an opportunity to engage her on some of these policy reviews? There might be some policies where there's a fit there, so just wanted to raise that. And then, other than that, the Select Board has moved on to their portion of the budget process, so they've had 2 meetings so far. They met last Wednesday, and then they're meeting Tuesday this week, were to begin the budget process on the town side. So that's been going on there. Tom gave most of the notification we need to give, but we will plan to do a single meeting review of policies JICA, JB, and JFBB, amendments to those during our next meeting. So you'll see those come in the packet, of course, but just a heads up on that. Actually, we'll send them at least a week before the meeting, so you'll see them well before the packet. And then the fourth thing that I just wanted to give a quick sort of update on, it's sort of logistical around our next meeting. I think folks have probably seen we had the notice posted around accepting nominations for facilities naming. There was a nomination. That nomination's since been taken off the table. So as of today, I don't anticipate reviewing any nominations on January 5th. I think it's January 5th. If there are, we've said we'll accept nominations, going forward, of course, as well. So if a nomination were to pop up, we would hear it on January 5th. If that happens, I just want to sort of lay the groundwork for how that would work. The nominating party would have an opportunity to present their nomination. We can ask clarifying questions. You all sort of remember this from the Halcroft naming that we did. We'll ask clarifying questions. We won't do any deliberation. We won't do any public comment on it at that meeting. And we would, in a follow-up meeting, a subsequent meeting, have discussion, allow public comment, and vote whether or not to advance that nomination. So again, as of today, I'm not anticipating any on the 5th. Of course, they'll show up on the agenda if there are, but just wanted to set that expectation for what that would look like logistically should something pop up. And that is all I had. So, okay, so we're going to move on to new business. So the first item on the new business is the RMHS school improvement plan. So everyone will remember we reviewed the elementary and middle schools last time and approved all of those. We will do the high school this evening. I think Ms. Buckley is here to present. Dr. Milczewski, is there anything else you want to say as a preamble? Or
Just like to quickly share that unfortunately Principal Tracy was planning to be here tonight. He got hit by a lot of the things that have been going around the school today, had to leave the school early unexpectedly. So Ms. Buckley is coming in on short notice to fill in. Obviously been involved with the school improvement plan throughout, but I appreciate Ms. Buckley too making on short notice here and stepping in on behalf of the high school team. So
it's probably ideal actually for you to sit here because you'll be on camera. Do you want to share from your computer or do you want Dr. Milczewski to share? What's easier?
Can you share? Yeah.
And then the last piece I'll share too is Principal Tracy, we had to convince him to, while he was sick, to not try to come on virtually. He said he is committed to doing a recording of the video as well, so he'll put a video up on the website that people can look at afterwards as well too, so.
You just need to open Zoom and share from there.
That's.
I'm sure you have both.
Do I point them towards me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're good? Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Katie Buckley. I'm an assistant principal at Reading Memorial High School. I'll be representing our school tonight. I'm really glad to be here and feel honored for the opportunity, so thank you. I am going to be walking through the overview of the school improvement plan at RMHS. We have lots of exciting and new stuff happening here. As you know, As you know, we're committed to a well-rounded education, and some highlights that have happened recently. One, the Scrooge play. Oh, thank you, okay. Very fancy. One was the Scrooge play on the top left of the screen. One really quick funny story about that is that I did a cameo in it as we shared, and Sue Brown was giving me the rundown of what to do, and I was like, okay, I say, here's your turkey, Mr. Scrooge. I was so nervous, but Sue was like, Dr. Milczewski, when he shared it, everybody did a huge round of applause. Not sure if you're gonna get that or not, but like, just go out there and do your best. So I go, I tried, so nervous, like totally blacked out, was like, here you go, here's your turkey, Mr. Scrooge. Everyone was like, I think some people clapped, not sure. But then a student looked at me and goes, you can go now. And I was like, okay. So moral of that story is don't expect a Dr. Milczewski applause if you go after him in a cameo. But anyway, that was really fun. I love the opportunity to do that. On the right-hand side, we have our incredible student, Abby Farrell, who was named All-State by Massachusetts Volleyball Coaches Association. She's an awesome kid. We really enjoy her at school. And then we recognize several of our academic leaders at school for the National Merit Scholars on the bottom left, which is a fantastic and incredible achievement. Okay, so moving on, you've heard many times now about our district strategic objectives, and they're really aligned to our school goals, actually. And the district strategic objectives are increasing a sense of belonging in our school community, providing opportunities for challenging and engaging learning environments that promote high level of growth and achievement, and efficient operational systems. So you'll see a lot of information on these slides. I'm going to keep it as short as possible and just share some of the awesome things that are happening already at our school and highlight a little bit, but I'll go goal by goal here. We have 4 goals at our school this year. The first one is we really want all members of our school community to feel a true sense of belonging to our school. Goal 2 is increasing student access to rigorous programs and opportunities. Goal 3, promote high level of growth and achievement by enlisting our members of our instructional leadership team as instructional leaders through walkthroughs, feedback, and professional development in partnership with admin. And then goal 4 is clear and transparent communication. So now, if you don't mind, I will talk about goal 1. So we really, like I said, want everyone that interacts with our school to feel a sense of belonging at the school, from the front office staff to parents, students, teachers, everyone involved. We've gathered data via surveys. I'm a member of the Lynch Leadership Program. They helped me organize a survey that we sent out and got 706 responses from students to take the baseline survey, which I'll give out 2 more times this year. We also have been using the Panorama survey, which is an awesome way to track our progress towards all of our students feeling a sense of belonging. In the survey that we have, that I created through Lynch, I also sent out to teachers and parents. I'm gonna keep going here. There we go. These are the objectives, the initiatives that we've been doing. We really want to celebrate and acknowledge the work of our students and staff via social media, articles, the website, monthly newsletters. We are in the works of planning our second Unity Day, and we really want that to be a thing that we do every single year, a tradition at our school, focused on learning something new, meeting someone new, and trying something new. It was a huge hit last year, and we actually have a bunch of student leaders that met with me and the guest speaker that we already have locked in for this year, so we're really excited about it. We also had our first homecoming week at our school, which was great, and we got a lot of success and a lot of parent involvement, which we were super excited about. Thank you, Carla, for all the help on that. And we've been holding structured professional development sessions monthly for all staff, really focused on the science behind how students learn and how it's really important to help them feel safe in order to be ready for rigorous instruction. And then we also have the Wayfinder curriculum during Flex Block. It's been really integral to helping students find their way both in high school and find a path for beyond. Okay, so that is school improvement goal 1. Goal 2, we want to focus on equity and review student data, support our staff through developing our teachers, and develop common language about what it means to hold high expectations for all students. Here's some things that we did. We've really been focusing on our multi-tiered system of support. We restructured our SST process and our CASEL protocols to really focus on interventions, to talk about the student, talk about what's already worked for helping the student, have a team in place to suggest interventions that might work, and then track those interventions over time within hopes to lower the tiered support that they would need over time when they get the interventions that they need. We really have been moving forward on designing a schedule that better serves our students over time, an equitable schedule. We have a committee and we've been working really hard on that. I already spoke to the professional development that we've been leading monthly, but we've been leading a professional development series called Ready for Rigor, which focuses on us as educators thinking critically about the lens in which we see the world, interrogating our biases, in order to create a safe and culturally responsive environment for all of our students. Goal 3, system of operations. Here are some things that we've been doing around this. We launched innovation pathways around manufacturing and computer science. That's with the incredible work of Jess Callanan. We really have been working towards increasing opportunities for dual enrollment and to help bring the leap to college and make a bridge so that students don't feel like college classes are such a high level up, that we really want to bring that down so that students can experience what it's like to be in a college classroom before they leave, if they choose to. And then, let me say, hold on, one more thing on this one. We've been analyzing our attendance data and planning interventions and celebrations at each tier. In creating and implementing a credit recovery program for students who have been struggling with their attendance. Me and the other assistant principal have been meeting regularly with families around attendance and focusing on the root cause in order to help students make strong decisions in terms of attendance so that they can be successful both in high school and then whatever comes after high school for them. Okay, finally. Goal 4 is developing our instructional leadership team. We really want our instructional leadership team and our department heads specifically to take charge and be the instructional leaders at our school. We have incredible department heads at our school. One example of this is that all of our department heads just finished walkthroughs and partnerships with administration. We've all done between 5 and 7 together, but we've been focusing on aligning on what rigorous tasks actually look like and making sure that we're all speaking the same language when we're sharing feedback to teachers. Okay. We have a few outcomes and accountability here. We already have and will continue to revise our student support team, our SST process, in order to serve students, and our CASEL, our Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, around specific interventions that we're using to move students forward. We already applied for the first part of the Innovation Pathway Grant, and we've been starting to plan for it. I've been part of the planning committee. That's super exciting for our school. We have a weekly newsletter for our staff and families. We've been collecting data towards sense of belonging, both through the Panorama survey and that Lynch Leadership survey that we sent out in October. We've been increasing advanced coursework and participation rates for high needs students over time. And we'll continue to do so. And then we're really hopeful that all students will meet our MCAS expectations as we're rolling out an intervention plan to serve students who need that extra support over an 8-week time span. We're hoping through targeted interventions that our multilingual learners will hit their access testing progress targets. And we have created a long-term plan for professional development and department meeting times so that we can really be proactive about what's coming up so that we can best serve our teachers and staff to best serve our students. And we've been working on aligning our RMHS graduation requirements to match our math core expectations of 4 years for math for all RMHS students. We do have an observation tracker for instructional leadership team to plan thoughtful feedback that is aligned with the same message around rigorous tasks. And 5 observations and walkthroughs in partnership with department heads and admin. So that was a lot of information, I am sorry, and I will take any questions. But before I do, I just want to share that I've been at this school for 1.5 years, and it has been absolutely incredible. I'm so inspired every day by the students that I get to work with the families that I get to talk to, and the staff that I interact with. I've been blown away by the love and care that parents have for their students in this community, and I've really enjoyed my time. So thank you.
Thank you. First? I do have,
Go first.
me? All right. I'm going to apologize in advance. Maybe a little bit of an unfair question, because
All
I
right.
know it's in progress. You talked about incremental changes in 2023, 24 for the schedule, like things that have
Yes.
been revealed already through that process?
Yep.
Is there anything there you can sort of preview for us, like what kind of constraints we're expecting to see lifted?
I don't think we're gonna like drop any bombs about the schedule. We know that we've worked really hard, and there's been a committee in place to move the time to 8:30 of the start, and we understand that that's important, but we want to make incremental changes. Right now, we're in the phase where we identified our top priorities that we want in the schedule, and we've been looking at lots of different schedules that different schools are doing and weighing all the pros and cons. So we're not like at a place where we can commit to any of those, but we're working towards it.
Okay.
And one small one, I know the teams work, and Katie and I talked, we're going to tag team this too, because I know Katie also had 3 hours notice after right from what you do. So
I'll do what I can.
One other piece that I know that we've been talking about that is on the high school's mind for more these incremental changes right away is the how 9th grade and 11th grade health and PE and health are sort of structured. As we know, it's like PE study, and we know that that's one thing that kind of boxes kids in on classes that they can take, both in 9th grade and 11th grade. And we're using the term, if we can unlock that and kind of get all PE back to back or health back to back, that will free up a whole semester's worth of an elective, both in 9th and 11th grade, and also maybe free up time in some of the innovation pathways, and also reduce the number of study halls that kids have. So two of the core things that have been identified by the scheduling committee is a goal of reducing the number of studies and increasing opportunities for kids to have access to the courses that they want to take. Conversations that we know are ahead down the line on this that are a little bit maybe not, that's just like a structural change, and I think everyone's bought into that. Conversations around requirements of PE and how many years, in health as well, and implications of that. Also the lab science, which also has the school science that have the extra lab, how that can box in class schedules too, so weighing out pros, cons of those things. So I think some of those conversations are happening. I appreciate Katie kind of also not sharing out all of the internal conversation at this point, but some of those larger conversations, we will need to have obviously community engagement to kind of around that. But I think the first order of business is freeing up some of those spots that might give more choice to kids.
Yep, and we also want teachers to be able to collaborate and have some common free planning time. That's been one of our bigger things that we want.
Go ahead, Tom.
My question was going to be on the same topic, and Dr. Milczewski probably knows what I'm going to say, but you sort of answered it already. And please, it's not really a question, it's more of a plead. Please, please, please engage the parents and the students in this process
Yeah.
sooner than later. I mean, all the five of us that are sitting here remember, a story when we were interviewing for Dr. Milczewski's position about how that blew up a district because they did not do it properly, and it delayed it for a whole year, right? So we don't want to delay this for a whole year because we're not engaging people now, right? We don't want to come to April and say, oh, here's your new, or even, scheduling happens at the end of February. We don't want to come to February and say, here's what your new schedule is going to look like, and have parents go, what? What are you talking about, right? That time is short between now and then. Start the engagement, because it hasn't happened yet as a parent. Start the engagement about what the thought process is and where you are and what your options are and things like that sooner than later. Whether it's marketing or more real true engagement, it needs to be out front, not behind. Because we do not need to have another year of a bad schedule because we did not communicate properly.
Great. Thank you.
Fair point. We had a microcosm of that with the start times,
Yes.
here as well, so,
Yep.
yeah. Okay, any other comments, questions?
I guess just an observation as well. Congratulations on having one of your outcomes already done. We have Mass Core 4 years of math already.
There we go.
online.
Perfect.
It's in the handbook and it's in the policy, so congratulations.
We love that.
Good job.
Okay, is there a motion?
Chuck, I said two things.
Yeah, please.
I also want to add for the community, too, that this passed unanimously through the RMHS School Council last Thursday, which I believe is December 8th. And also, just like to thank Ms. Buckley, too. So I think not only for tonight, but as the community knows, Mr. Tracy had to step away for a medical issue a couple of weeks ago. While the team was working collaboratively, we did name Ms. Buckley sort of the point of the team, and I know that she held a lot of things together for the group, too. So I'd just also like to make sure we acknowledge you publicly, not only for what you did tonight, what you do on a daily basis, but also for that time that is helping keep the team moving. I know that Mr. Tracy appreciates it, and we all appreciate it, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Couldn't do it without my team. Okay.
All right, is there a
Thank
motion?
you.
Hold on, we have to vote.
Oh, sorry.
I move to approve the RMHS School Improvement Plan.
And is there a second? Seconded by Chuck. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great night. Bye.
Thank you, Ms. Buckley.
Okay, with that, we will move to Ms. Baton for the Q1 financial update. And Dr. Milczewski, I think that is on, yeah, you've got that as well.
All right, do what Q1, just in the packet, it's the easiest spot.
Just in the packet. I don't even know if we need to review it, but
I'll put it up just in case.
Sure. So enclosed in your pack this evening is the Q1 financial report, which summarizes our financial activity for the operating budget, our grants, and special revenue funds from July 1st through September 30th. At this time, our appropriated budget of $51,783,363 is being well deployed, and I expect no issue in meeting our financial obligations this year. And at this time, we're projecting a balance of about $347,000. Now, so much can happen between October 1st and June 30th, but I wanted to assure you that we're monitoring our budget frequently. We're making decisions about allocating savings early in the school year as they appear, so that we can ensure that we're making the most out of the resources appropriated to us. We've continued to make progress in terms of using our grant funds. Over the past couple of years, we've been carrying over balances. We've got plans and are spending down those older grants, and we'll end this year pretty much up to our current grant awards. Our special revenue funds are trending well, although at the end of September, there was not much information for us to make a solid end-year projection on balances, given that students were only in school for about 4 weeks. I can share with you that as of this time, we're seeing that the special revenue funds will run approximately level to their trend last year, except for athletics. Due to the enrollment decrease, participation is off a little bit in fall sports and is projected to be off a little bit in the spring. Food services also will, their carryover balance will decline somewhat because of the investment that we're making in our staff and our quality of food in our systems. I think those are the highlights this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Ms. Baton, just, I know there was a recommendation for a budget transfer in here. We didn't get it explicitly posted on the agenda prior to the 48-hour piece. Is there an operational issue if we hold the budget transfer vote for our next meeting?
No, there is
Okay.
not. We can postpone.
I think we probably could do it, but it's probably cleaner just to hold it for the next meeting, if that's okay. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead, Tom.
I was going to ask you a little bit about the background of that one.
Sure.
And if it is potentially recurring. I know you can't share private information, but is this something we should be watching out for? And is there any small summary you can share about what caused that excess?
It's the excess or the need for the recommended transfer?
The need for the transfer in health services.
The need for the transfer in health services is student need driven, and that need will continue on through our next fiscal year, FY '24.
Okay. So it's not COVID-related or something else
No.
along those lines?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Okay, so we'll hold the budget transfer for the next meeting.
Thank you.
And with that, we will move on to our pre-budget preview and discussion in anticipation of our budget process beginning in earnest on January 5th.
Yes. So I'll get started on the presentation this evening and then turn it over to Dr. Milichewski. This evening, we're going to review a preliminary budget summary of where we are as of today in our budget development process. I'd like to review with you this evening our Finance Committee funding guidelines, share with you again the school committee guidelines that you've shared with us over the last month. We'll look at budget development process and our approach. We'll review our strategic objectives, and we'll revisit all of the investments that were made in this fiscal year and some emerging investments that we're looking at for FY24. Finally, we'll review the budget timeline, and then our closing will be a time for questions and responses. The Finance Committee funding guidelines, the FY23 appropriated budget is $51.8 million. The FinCom guidelines are $54.156 million, which is about a $2.37 million increase, or 4.58. And this increase reflects a couple of things. One is a $150,000 community priority allocation to support our movement toward universal full-day K, as well as a recent increase in the operating budget identified by the town and some of their budget development savings. And those dollars will also be used to help us toward full-day K kindergarten. The school committee's budget development guidelines are all listed here, and maybe I'll just review the top few, and we can talk about the rest. Consider a plan to incorporate ESSER-funded positions to continue our progress towards universal full-day K. Incorporate the recommendations that were made by DESE and the special ed program reviews last year. Support the high school's innovation pathways, continue middle school curriculum work, increase time on learning at the elementary schools, support early learners and readers, and then there are other guidelines. Would you like me to read them for the public? Okay.
I think the only one that we'll want to see, which we will look for just a conversation with the committee tonight too, is around the maintain class size within school committee guidance. We know there was conversations last year on that. I think it would be helpful to, again, entertain that conversation a little bit tonight to make sure that that's reflected in our planning.
Thank you. The budget development process begins in this way. Once the context is defined, the FinCom guidelines and the school committee guidelines, we begin to build the budget from the bottom up, essentially a zero-based budgeting. We begin person by person, calculating the costs associated with cost of living adjustments, steps, lanes, and any other contractual changes that are made. We calculate these baseline costs. We evaluate staffing schedules, student groupings, caseloads based on student enrollment, and student needs. We ensure that all of our personnel costs are aligned with employment contracts and that and our negotiated bargaining agreements. We examine historical spending trends, not only for personnel but also for non-personnel. We calculate anticipated baseline needs, and we budget for known services. We assess also the use of all grants and revolving funds. So building the baseline budget requires that we pause and look at projected enrollment, projected class sizes, and what student needs may look like for the following year. On this chart, you'll see the movement between FY23 and FY24 enrollment by grade level, and not only the delta between each grade level, grade 1 over grade 1 next year, but also the cohort change. So for example, the students moving from kindergarten this year totaled 269. Next year, our projections for that same class moving up to grade 1 is 283, which is about 14 students increase in that cohort. But kindergarten level to kindergarten level, it appears that we're going to increase from 269 to 276, which is an increase of 7 students. Overall, our total enrollment this year was 3,851 students. Next year, we're projecting 3,808, which is about 43 student decline between this year and last year.
Can we pause there for a second?
Sure, we can pause.
So first of all, I appreciate seeing it both in cohort and grade. So thank you for that. Usually we see a drain of about 10 to 15 from 5th to 6th.
Yes.
You're projecting an increase of 1. Is there something you know that we don't know in that increase? And/or inversion of the, reversion to the mean here that's going on?
Well, over the past couple of years, we've seen a decrease of about, I think 2 years ago, we saw a decrease in that transition of about 5%. Last year, we saw an increase of about 3%. We've also looked carefully at the students who are currently enrolled in 5th grade and charted them out to see which schools they would, which neighborhoods they live in, which schools they would be associated with, and calculated that move. So it's pretty much level. We've received in a number of 4th and 5th graders, mostly 5th graders this year too, which has added to the increase since October 1st.
We have added.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like you're somewhat projecting a continued comeback after COVID, where kids might have been out for private school in elementary and they might be coming back. I would just ask that we think about those still that might be going out too. I'd love to say that none of them are leaving, but 6th grade is when Austin Prep, SJP, and others start picking up. So I just wanted to make sure we think about that. Hopefully it goes up. I'd love to see it go up, because that's improving, it's demonstration of improved confidence, but I just want to make sure we're thinking about those things.
Prior to COVID, it looked as if the transition from 5th to 6th tapered off by about 2%. So then we had that big decrease, a correction, and now let's see what happens. The 8th to 9th tapers off by about 11%, which is pretty much consistent from year to year. So once we've defined our staffing needs based on enrollment and class size and student needs, and have made personnel projections and non-personnel projections, we then begin to dive deep and drill down and try to identify ways that we can maximize our current resources. We look at every account. We look at staff members who are scheduled to retire and reflect those savings within our budget. We've been able to shift some positions from one of the grants to the operating budget and hourly workers to a grant, which saved us about $80,000. We've looked at charging lunchtime paras to the school lunch fund, applying our school choice funding for the first year. Our non-personnel shifts and changes that we've looked at is we've considered the rising tuition rates for out-of-district placements, which is 14% for private out-of-district placements. We've looked at the unpredictability of out-of-district placements. We've looked at the aging out of students. We've tapered back on requirements for new employees to receive physical exams, so we've saved some money there. We're evaluating our para-substitute budget. We're exploring our post contract with Wakefield, and we are reflecting an increase in support through the circuit breaker reimbursement. So as we're building the budget from the bottom up, we then keep in mind the context of our strategic objectives. And we've heard this evening from Ms. Buckley, our three strategic objectives are to reflect our commitment to inclusion and creating a sense of belonging for all students, prioritizing our investment in high-quality instruction and instructional systems, and then streamlining operational systems for efficiency.
Go ahead, Tom.
Susan, can I pause? Just want the committee to be aware of something here, because we might need your advocacy for it. This reducing new employee physical examination requirement is a Reading bylaw issue that we need to advocate for. Within Article 4 of the Reading bylaws, there's a mandate that we have to do a physical examination of every new employee. That's currently in our policy as that relationship as well. There's some contention about whether that should be there or not. So we will be asking the bylaw committee to reconsider that mandate and consider new legal precedents as a result of that. So I think this is making an assumption that we can convince people that the bylaw should change, but just the rest of the committee should know that there is some bylaw work to do for that work.
Sean, can I?
Please, Chuck, yes.
Susan, I guess really I'm looking at the non-personnel, and, you know, obviously this is at a high level. When you are going to start putting together the budget line by line, what type of assumptions are made for inflation? Because then we've never had to do that, and I think we're going to I think we're going to have to now.
As we've been going through every account in the budget by category, categories such as custodial supplies, legal services, we've been clumping those together and reviewing trends, looking at anticipated costs, and factoring in an inflation factor based on the type of service or based on the type of product, rather than doing a straight across the board 3% or 5% or 7%.
Good, yeah, that's,
We've been focused product by line by line.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Tom, can I ask just a quick follow-up on that bylaw thing? So, I mean, April town meeting would be the first opportunity to review, well, unless there's a special town meeting, I guess. But otherwise, April town meeting would be the first opportunity. Is the thought that there's something we would want to pursue with the bylaw committee prior to that and ask them to look at to bring something forward? I mean, we can sponsor an article,
Yeah.
right? But if the bylaw committee would be the one to consider it and draft it, then obviously they have some work to do in between.
I would say the thought is evolving.
Okay.
Would be the best way to answer the question, as we just got some feedback earlier this
Sure.
week. But I do think it should be kind of co-sponsored ideally between the bylaw committee saying, yes, this makes logical sense, town legal counsel saying, yes, this makes logical sense, our legal counsel and us saying, this is what we should be doing. Whether we can do that by April is another question. Maybe there can be a warrant article and everything's not finalized yet because I think it's due by end of February or something like that. So we'll have to figure out the timing and kind of put our foot on the gas if we want to start that soon. Worst case scenario, I think maybe November is reasonable for sure. Is there a big issue in the meantime? Maybe, maybe not. But ideally, we can get it done for April so we have some maturity going into July of next year.
Well, and the language wouldn't have to be complete by February. The warrant article has to be placed on the warrant by end of February. So if there's line of sight to having, okay. All right, thank you. Sorry, Susan. Yep. Go ahead, Carla.
Did we already drop that requirement for this year for the new employees?
Does that require some collective?
So just to pause for a moment, so once we have the context of our budget and then begin to build from the bottom up, in parallel, we start to create from the top down by using our strategic objectives. We work collaboratively with all of our building leaders. We get together, we identify investment priorities, items and services and staff that we believe will make a difference in helping us to achieve our objectives. So this collaborative budget approach includes sort of this protocol, which is engaging these small groups of our leadership teams by level and together. And those teams go off into their school buildings or go off and work with their program teams. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of cross-referencing of priorities. It's a conversation and a discussion, and we circle back again together to revisit what we've discussed and our reflections. We identify investment priorities. We use student data and reach out to our instructional networks to sort of discuss further what we're thinking about and whether or not it makes sense given what we all know about and our networks know about proven results for students. We give careful consideration we've given careful consideration to the assessments that I discussed that were done last year by DESE and the assessment for our special ed programs. We thoughtfully maximize and leverage all of our funding sources. And we leverage and build upon successful outcomes that we're seeing from this year. And that's is sort of where we've been and followed the process too. So I think Dr. Milichewski is going to move on.
Great. So as we're kind of walking to the next, previewing what's coming in January, we're going to give a quick overview of just some of the investments of FY23, really high level, and then also just some of the things that we're here that are emerging as priorities amongst our team for FY24. You'll see this is like a big list. We haven't yet narrowed this down into a place where we're able to put dollars attached here or rank of priority, but wanted the committee and the community to see some of the things that are on the radar as raised by our team and members of our community. So first, FY23 investments around strategic objective 1, which is by now, which is around safe and supportive learning environments. The investment in social workers and school counselors has been a tremendous lift for our schools. As you remember, we hired 1.0 FTE social worker for the middle school level, and then 8 at METCO counselors, 5 across the elementary schools, and also a METCO coordinator at the middle school level. We've heard initial encouragement about the roles and the idea that these have been roles that have been a great source of counseling and support for kids, and also especially the METCO roles, also huge investments for a lot of our Boston residents and that connection that they've had with school. So seeing early returns on those results, but also, as we know, our work is with any new role, there's a lot of calibration on who's doing what's the school psychologist role versus school counselor versus the principal versus the district METCO director, so still working to figure out sort of how we best leverage those roles. We've established this RMHS Special Education Department Head. That was our largest department, but also our department that did not have a department head. Piloted a special education program evaluator this year. That's someone who's able to take care of a lot of the testing and evaluation, particularly the elementary school, to take some of that off of the plate of our elementary special education teachers and allow them to be more present with our students. We've expanded our nursing services to now have a full-time health service director. We increased stepping stone staff by 0.2 FTE, and then also a couple of ongoing work around behavioral health training and professional training for all of our behavioral health staff, and also, as we know, our community work around increasing adaptive sports and community opportunities. Those are conversations we had over the past years and thought it was important for our community, again, to see some of those that are now in place in our schools. Some of the things that are on the radar this year in this area, and this is a lot, again, these are not all things that we believe we can invest in at this point. We are committed to increasing FDK, as Susan spoke to a little bit here. Our leaders have spoke a lot about wanting to maintain the elementary METCO adjustment counselor positions and to possibly try to look at expanding this model. Committed to trying to find a way to continue on funding for positions that are ESSER funded, particularly our guidance and team chair positions. The desire to sustain the special education program evaluator position, expanding translation services to support our MLL students, our multilingual learner students, which we've seen a significant increase over the past couple of months. One of the big things that came out of the special education program reviews was the need for a transition specialist to support all of our students, especially with transition planning as they're entering around age of 14 all the way through 22. Some of the other then things that we've heard across the community, adding a 0.4 FTE teacher at Rise to respond to the increased demand of, or the demand of our community, and also to be more thoughtful about some of our scheduling and how we've organized certain classes. Adding a student-driven FTE nurse, adding more social work at the middle school level, adding support for coordinating attendance and registration, continuing around more investments in restorative circles, SEL, continuing to build on Project Wayfinder, continue to immerse in various DEI programs and staffing, including diversifying and retaining our educators of color and leaders of color across our district, and also possibly increasing attendance by contracting for one additional bus. So again, a lot of different things here. As we move into January, obviously we'll narrow that down, but wanted to raise some of the things that's been on the mind of our community in priority, strategic objective 1. 2, around coherent instructional systems. A lot in this work last year, as we know, thank you to Amanda Haley for her comments tonight. I thought were really powerful, but adopting an elementary literacy curriculum with embedded PD. That's been part of the best part for us, has not only been having the curriculum, but also having that embedded the PD, which has been powerful for our teachers and for our leaders. Continuing to implementation of our elementary and secondary math curriculum this year. We've increased data assessment support staffing by 0.4 FTE, as we know. We've hired one additional this year, one MLL teacher, and expanded the coordinator's FTE. We've increased, even over the past couple months as we shared, our MLL staff by additional 1.5 FTE. That's a lot mid-year, but we've had a surge an enrollment of beginner multilingual learners in our district, which is exciting. We've executed new teacher mentor programs. We have also conducted leadership development, which we've talked about with our ILTs through Salem State, and also utilized our Endicott and Merrimack fellows in classes where we've had some of those larger classes at the elementary level. All things that we discussed sort of over the past year. Continued on, again, a lot of other things. There's a lot of investments last year around middle school common assessments with iReady. So now all of our teachers at middle school level are both math and ELA, having to have a pulse on how our students are progressing and academically. We've established our middle school literacy leadership team. All of our 6 through 12 secondary schools are looking at effective training and scheduling with through district management group. We have the full-time RMHS Director of Academic Achievement. We heard from Ms. Callahan a couple of weeks ago around our work around innovation pathways. We have started and launched our work within innovation pathways, implemented the RMHS Academic Center, started to offer some dual enrollment courses, the Seal of Biliteracy, and launched additional computer science courses. So all things that were investments in FY23. Some of the things that are emerging on FY24, and I think that this is becoming, I think, the sort of the main focus of our team as we've had conversations with the principals, is that we need to continue to build out the infrastructure of how we have systems that support high quality instruction across our district. So what do we mean by that? So for example, one of the things you see on here are that the potential investment in elementary assistant principals. We know right now our principals, the demand on principals is a lot. We know the job has never been more complex. You've heard me say that before. And wanting them to invest in the way that we want them in instructional leadership, could be supported with the addition of assistant principals who can share and be partners in that work with them. Also you'll see here the possibility for increasing coaching, whether through coaches or other models for providing direct support for our teachers to be able to continue to utilize the new curriculum tools and assessment data with fidelity. So I just say, like, broad strokes, our team is really thinking about how do we make sure that we support our teachers who we know are doing really good work. How do we make sure that we are fully maximizing the new curriculum that are in the hands of a lot of our teachers at the elementary level and at the secondary level. So trying to build those systems around that. Some of the other things on here around coherent instructional systems, obviously full day K, obviously sustaining ESSER funded positions, transition coordinator, pathways, teaching fellows. Those are all things that we have discussed. Other priorities include, a big one for us is developing a multi-year curriculum review cycle. We think it's really important that we just, it's not, here or there as, as things pop up to respond to needs and curriculum shifts, but also to be more proactive in building out a plan and a cycle for reviewing curriculum at all levels of the district, expanding our mentorship program to second-year teachers, building on the seal of biliteracy, wanting to, again, I spoke a little bit about, kind of refining our wellness units of study and increasing health and PE staffing and offerings, and continuing to build out our RMHS academic lab, a couple other things on there as well. Then lastly, under operations, a couple of things, I'll just name a few here that we're really excited about. One, we think that having the full-time director this year, that investment has paid huge dividends right away. We felt it was really difficult to expect one person to be in 2 districts of this size, and I think we've seen some really encouraging early gains in student participation and anecdotal reports around the quality of food for our students. New website, our first community report, which was recently released. I just one small anecdote on that. I was at a holiday party with friends whose family's all from Reading, and I thought I'd be there chasing around my kids, and I didn't know I'd be surrounded by many people who are Reading residents. Many of kids have graduated from the schools years ago and said that it was nice to get something from the schools and hear a little bit about what's happening in the schools. So thank you to all those who supported that. And obviously, Turf 1 field replacement, which was a huge I think, win for our community, where we are with Killam and what's ahead for Killam, and also the increase of smartboard panels and one-to-one devices in our schools. Just 3 things under ops this year that are on our radar at this point. One, potentially figuring out ways we can be more thoughtful and strategic with all the different new assessment tools that we have. Are there ways to sort of organize that data through some sort of dashboard that allows us to be able to, that we're not pulling from a couple of different places, to have a better snapshot of how our students are doing, and to be able to have more actionable data right in front of us in one place. Adding support to our technology staffing. Ms. Baton thanked our technology staff. We know that there's continued, the needs continue to rise within our schools around technology, and continuing to support the cleanliness of our building through increasing custodial services after our use. So again, a lot of priorities there. I don't think there's much on there that should be a surprise to anyone. We're looking forward to, over the next couple of weeks, continue to refine those, narrow those down as our priorities, and to be able to move that process forward over the next month and a half. I think Ms. Baton just want to speak quickly about just what's ahead, and then we'll open it up to questions and reflections.
So we'll be wrapping up these priorities and presenting to you on January 5th recommended budget. In January, there'll be a number of opportunities for us to engage in discussion with all of you and with our community. And some of those opportunities are noted on this slide. And then in closing, we wanted to ask you if you had any questions or comments or feedback for us. And if you'd like to provide any further guidance on enrollment, class sizes, or any other aspect of our budget summary.
Let's start. Erin, go ahead.
This is a lot. It's sort of dizzying. It's exciting, though. It's exciting that, to see these initiatives. Regarding class sizes, I noticed when you showed enrollment projections that 4th grade, which we know is quite large at least 3 of our schools, is going to be even larger overall next year. So that jumped out at me. Also, I saw that you're looking to hang on to the teaching fellows, which I think has been a great support for the 4th grade programs. So I guess my question is, will the teaching fellows follow into 5th grade with the current grades that we hired them for, or are we going to have a problem at 4th grade next year? And does that mean more teaching fellows, or does it mean the teaching fellows are going to stay in 4th grade? And you might not know the answer, but I'm just sort of, when you said maintain teaching fellows.
Great question. So we don't have an answer yet.
Okay.
So I think it would be hard, I would think it would be hard to pull away some of that support that I think has been valuable for some of those cohorts. So I think we'd want to, again, talk to the teachers, talk to the principals, about sort of the need for that continued support, but I have a hard time thinking that that's going to be something we would pull away from. At the same time, there are some cohorts that seem to be growing in size too that I think we have to be responsive to. I think those decisions will be made probably when we bring out the list in January and say this, this is fourth grade class size projected at each school across the district. I'll share one thing is that last year there was really hard to recruit fellows, as we know that there was 3 classes where we committed to having a fellow, one at Killam, one at JE, one at Wood End. We were able to hire an Endicott fellow. We were also able to hire a Merrimack fellow, and then we're also and we were not able to hire a third, so we filled one with a paraprofessional position. We recently entered into an agreement with Endicott College where they have 6 priority districts where they're going to be trying to provide their fellows to those 6 districts instead of trying to span larger than that. So that should give us, we think, increased access to a pool of fellows. Both Endicott and Merrimack have reached out to say that this year they think their pools will be higher in terms of fellow than it's been in the past. So we are optimistic that we'll be able to fill those fellows positions and maybe even increase in fellows, but it is also a risk when we budget for that, just knowing that there may not be as many candidates out there as we need for our roles as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's harder to speak to without seeing the class breakdown of what you're looking at school by school. I think it's definitely been a major adjustment for teachers and students, but I commend at least the teachers I'm observing at Joshua Eaton. I think they're doing a phenomenal job. And I know it's not ideal, but given how widespread it is throughout our district, I think as long as we can stick to our guidance, then I could get behind that.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think, the challenge now is we don't know yet. We'll probably end up, some grades that today have 3 teachers may need 4, and so there'll be some shifting. So you may not see the large, the class sizes on the larger end of our guidance in the same places as we do this year. So that I'm sure will dictate where the additional supports need to go. I'll echo Aaron's comment though, from a Wood End perspective, my daughter's in one of these 4th grade classes that are, at the high end of the guidance here. And I was asking her this afternoon about her experience with that and if she had any feedback. And she said her only complaint was sometimes when they're sitting on the rug, she has to sit too close to a boy. I'm not joking. That was her only, we probed, my wife kind of was seeding some things that could bother her about having a larger class size. And she, it's generally gone well, I think for the 4th grade classes at Wood End, with the support of the paraeducator. I agree with Aaron's comments. All things being equal too, I think it would be important for us to think about the cohorts that are for the first time, if there's a cohort at a given school that for the first time is moving from, 16 student classes to 24 student classes, that's probably where you focus the support as much as on, a class that is remaining at 24 and sort of has that experience. At least that's how I would view it. I think those are the classes that would struggle the most. Now, again, that's going to vary school by school based on the size of the particular cohorts in a given school, so that probably doesn't apply in every case. But if, I think the adjustment to go from a small class to a larger class is probably more challenging than, being in year 2 of a larger class, is what my gut tells me. You all will figure that out along with the teachers and the principals, but just one thought on that. But I've been, I think we were all sort of, we saw those proposed class sizes last year and we all were concerned about finding extra supports. I think it's worked. And, I at least remain comfortable with sort of the guidance that we've always provided around class sizes, as long as we can stick within that going forward as well. John?
I'll just stay on this topic a little bit. I'm really looking forward to seeing the school breakdowns because these numbers can be really deceptive as a district-wide because you may have big classes in certain places. The obvious thing here is that, 3rd grade is now getting much smaller. So theoretically kids can, staff can move up and all that kind of fun stuff. But my question was more on, and it sounds to me like Aaron and Chana sort of answered this already, but I'd love to hear it from, your perspective. And if you've heard from the teachers is, are the fellows working? right? Is it really working for the teachers that have the fellows there? Are they able to rotate classes? Are they able to cover like we were thinking they were? You know, is that process actually working so far, like we hoped it would?
Yeah, great question. I think in conversation with either the fellows themselves, I was able to check in quickly with our fellow over at Killam just earlier this week, whether it's with our fellows, with the teachers, with some of the students, I think generally they've seen it as a huge resource and support to those classrooms. We don't have any sort of specific metrics that we have in place now to measure sort of the impact either of them academically or social and emotionally, outside of just sort of anecdotally what people are sharing. That's been very positive. I'm also open to feedback too from the committee or from the committee on ideas of maybe we could, have clearer metrics to be able to understand what the impact may be in that role, especially if it's something that we want to scale. But at this point, outside of just positive anecdotal reports, we don't really have anything to share. With that said, we do know that some of the things that they have done this far are taken the lead on leading whole group instruction at times, and then the lead teacher has also taken a step back and led small group. They have also filled in as substitute teachers when in those grade levels when the teachers are out. We know they've also been a part of common planning time and helped plan, both lessons and units. We know they have also worked on one-on-one interventions with kids. We know that they've also provided like social and emotional support, so small group kind of mentoring when that's been needed in the classroom. We know that they have also been visible and present out at like lunch groups and recess groups and specials sometimes where there can be larger, like sort of maybe sometimes some behavioral challenges. So I think all the ways that we had hoped they could sort of be leveraged in the class, particularly instruction, I think they've done that. And generally the feedback has been positive. I think it also helps that I think the three in the role, if you've met any of them, I think all three have been doing a really good job. We have three good people in the roles across the schools.
So just off the top of my head, we almost have a built-in randomized controlled trial here, right? Look at your growth scores across Joshua Eaton, across Killam, across Wood End. In that, you have two different models. You have a fellow model and you have a para model.
Yeah.
And then you can compare the growth scores between that and Barrows and Birch. And is it working or not? Not absolute, but growth scores.
Yeah.
We know that grade, and the third grade in particular, are the two grades that have been impacted the most in some of these things. So if we see excessive or positive growth that's over and above, that's statistically significant, you have an answer about whether it's working or not.
You have N of one in some of those groups, so I'm not sure how statistically significant the findings would be, but I hear the point.
It could be interesting to look at, though.
Yeah.
It's not the be-all and end-all, right? But it's
There's so many factors.
well, that's why it's randomized, right? But yeah, it's interesting to think about whether that's working or not. But so, food for thought.
The other thing on that point too is interesting, even the model, like when you look at the amount of classes, like at Wood End, they're working with 2 classes, right? But JE working with 3, right? So it's also kind of, it's interesting, that also impacts 2.
Yep, absolutely.
Or 2, JE 2, J3, I was right, yeah.
Killam's 3.
Killam's 3,
So
correct.
JEC.
Yeah.
But the current 4th grade at JE rocked the 3rd grade MCAS.
Doesn't mean they still can't improve their growth.
No, I know, but it's not to say they're coming out from a big hole either, which some people were worried about.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll just note is I think the school adjustment counselors have been such a huge add. I hear about them from so many parents, from so many kids. I think that has made a genuine difference as well.
One more quick clarifying question, I think. In the coaching stuff that we listed here, I thought we were talking potentially about math coaches, but it seems to imply both ELA, reading, and math coaches. And is that on purpose and that we're trying to prepare for when ARC steps away? Or is it, really that next year is more math and we want to set the foundation to potentially prepare for when ARC steps away?
Is this the slide that you're on?
Yeah, FY24 emerging investments, so that one.
Yeah. So we think, and we'll get into this in January, I think initially conversations that we had with our leaders, math is the place that we feel is a little bit more ripe right now to invest in coaching, given that we have a new curriculum, sort of newish, right, in a lot of ways, all the way from K to 8. And we don't have a lot of the embedded PD that we have also in some of our, K to 5, ARC core as well. So we feel like that's an area right now that would be sort of an easier spot to kind of to take off right away as we build a model out. We feel really good about the PD that our teachers and leaders are getting right now with ARC core, but we know that that's going to shift, and we have to build a sustainable model that, as that support lessons we know each year, that we have a model to be able to sustain that too. So we're starting to think about that. I don't think that's as pressing or as urgent of a need right now because we have it built in, but I think it would be short-sighted for us not to consider that even right now, even though the support is still pretty strong this year and into next.
Any other questions at this point?
I guess one more from a sustaining, and Susan, maybe this will come forward as we come into January, but on strategic investment number 3, the investments that we've had for one-to-one devices in grades 2 through 12, do we anticipate a large sustaining purchase in the next fiscal year, or are we thinking it's still a relatively small one?
We'll be talking about that in January, but we've been able to plan ahead to equalize the number of purchases per year. We're sustaining but the same amount every year. One of the other things that we're looking at is leasing versus buying, and so there are a number of things to consider.
Okay, so I'll just close this out just by putting specifics on the timeline here. So January 5th, which is a Thursday, and then January 9th, which is a Monday, will be sort of the two kind of budget overview, budget presentation meetings. We'll figure out the specific timing around questions and responses, but typically I think we try to get the responses complete before the hearing date. So we'll shoot for somewhere in that time frame. The hearing will be on January 19th, so we'll get that noticed, and then we'll take our vote on the budget on January 26th. And of course, we'll have other things on our agendas those evenings as well, including an onslaught of policies, which will continue. So, okay. Anything else on the budget preview? Okay. So with that, we're going to move into executive session. We will be returning, but Carla, if we could take a motion. Motion.
Move to enter into executive session to conduct strategy in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, central office and principals. We will be returning to open session.
Okay. Motion by Carla. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, I think I heard Chuck first. I'll give it to Chuck, and I think we need a roll call for this. Aaron?
Aye.
Chuck? Aye. Tom?
Aye.
Carla?
Aye.
Sean, aye. Okay. We will return. We'll return in approximately half an hour. I call us back to order in regular session at 8:59. That's the timestamp, so when I'm watching the YouTube later for minutes, we know what time it is. Okay, so we've got a number of policies to get through this evening. We've got 4 for second reading. I think 3 of them are essentially as presented last time, no discussion. And then EFDA, there's a little bit of a precursor. So Tom, I'll invite you to kind of talk us through how to think about EFDA, and then we'll. You know what, why don't we do them in sequence, because we've got to start the readings. So Carla, if you've got them in front of you, we can start with
Reading.
JE.
Student attendance. The Reading School Committee.
Move to waive the reading of policy JE.
Second.
Aaron, seconded by Chuck, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, we'll waive the reading. Any discussion on JE before we move to a vote to adopt it? Okay, Carla, is there a motion?
Move to adopt policy JE.
Is there a second? Seconded by Tom. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, we'll move on to JH.
Student absence and excuses.
Move to waive the reading of policy JH.
Second.
Seconded by Chuck. All in favor? All opposed? That carries. Any discussion before we take a motion to adopt? I guess that's out of order. Is there a motion? Is there a motion, Carla, on JH?
I move to adopt policy JH.
Second.
Seconded by Tom. All right, any discussion before we vote? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, and then JFABD.
Oh,
Homeless students enrollment.
Move to waive the reading of policy JFABD.
Seconded by, that'd be
Second.
great if it's Chuck, we'll just keep it going. Okay,
that move.
all in favor? Chuck, are you in favor?
Yes.
Carla, are you in favor? Okay, all opposed?
Waiving the reading.
In favor of waiving the reading, correct. Okay, we'll waive the reading 5-0, and Carla, is there a motion?
Move to adopt policy JFABD.
Second.
Seconded by Tom. Okay, any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Okay, well, real quick before you do that, just everybody knows that this was the one I made a few small changes for parent guardian that was previously in the previous meeting, so just so you know, if you didn't notice that already.
Okay, great. All right, all in favor? And all opposed, 5-0. Okay, so we'll slow down a tiny bit for this one. Let's take the reading, and then we'll take the motion, and then we'll have some discussion.
Unpaid meal charge policy. Reading Public Schools.
Move to waive the reading of policy EFDA.
Okay,
Second.
seconded by Chuck. All in favor of waiving the reading? 5-0. Okay, Carla, can we open up the discussion? EFDA?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here.
It's in my packet.
There was an updated,
Oh, it wasn't, okay, it didn't make it to the website in time. Okay, we can put it up on the screen.
It's up on the screen.
Okay, good. So Carla, can we'll take the motion, and then we'll open up discussion on this one.
move to adopt policy JFABD.
Sorry, we're on EFDA.
Move to adopt policy EFDA.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Tom. Okay, before we take a vote, I know there's discussion on this one. So Tom, do you want to walk us through what we're looking at and what we need to consider this evening?
Sure. So at our last meeting, Dr. Quorum raised a question about what happens for people, students or families who had not yet, been identified as needing free or reduced lunch, reduced price meals, I guess, since it's not just lunch. And we had tentatively added a new section down in that portion of the model, and said we were going to take it away with Susan, as she wasn't here at that point in time. So we had added another 4. So we had a 4, and we had 4 was 5, 5 was 6 after that meeting, and I can open up the version if necessary as well. After further discussion, Susan and our director of food services came back and said they didn't think the new 4 was necessary because there's already a process in place where they're sending out notifications to families that may have, gone negative on their balance. And that notification includes the ability to apply for free reduced lunch. So that was great. And I was about to ask Susan, hey, well, that's great that we're doing it now, but policy establishes best practice. And so, are we doing that? Should we put that in there anyway? And that's when we started looking, or I started looking further to see if it was already in there. And it just so happens it is already covered in the policy. And it's in the highlighted section here. It says families will be notified weekly by the school nutrition program if their account is negative, and determine if a student is otherwise directly certified, categorically eligible, or income eligible for free or reduced price meals within 30 days of notifying a household with unpaid meal debt. So we, in essence, are always checking to see if a student or a family will apply for, or will be eligible for free or reduced meals. Ergo, therefore, thus, hence, the new 4 is not necessary, because when 1, 2, and 3 recycles through again, anybody who newly applies will fall into the category that 1, 2, and 3 have, and will be able to be applied to the debt cancellation process from the donations.
Excuse me, can you read that one more time? That is not in the version that I have. Does everyone else have this highlighted paragraph in your?
Should be in the newest version we got today.
I thought that's what the 107-page packet.
So
Yes.
It's the one that's distributed.
So I'm in it, and that families will be notified paragraph is
So
only
there were
2
multi-
sentences.
Is it called updated? It's 12/15/22 updated.
Yeah,
There's multiple versions. There's the original version of the policy in there, and then there's the red line version.
Go to page
You just keep
Is that
scrolling.
what I'm-
89. Go to page 89.
thank you.
Yep, I found it.
I was like, why am I not seeing this? Okay.
So let me just make sure the clean one has that fully in there as well, just so we're clear on which one we're looking at.
Gotcha. Okay.
A lot of different policy updates here, so. All right, so, yeah, the clean one does have it, and the clean one still has the comments. So I'll share that too, so people can see it, the clean version.
Yeah, so the clean one's on 86, page 86 of the latest version of the packet, which will get posted to the site, of course.
So
And then,
clean one is now shared, and I'll just highlight this section here. It says,
Tom, can you zoom in on
I
it?
can zoom in, absolutely. And this was actually one of the legal additions to it as part of the legal review. So families will be notified weekly by school nutrition program if their account is negative, and determine if a student is otherwise directly certified, categorically eligible, or income eligible for free or reduced meals within 30 days of notifying a household with unpaid meal debt. So, as I was mentioning, if that happens every week, and if the student is discovered, then they will automatically fall into the recursive point of 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
Right? And they'll automatically be covered under that section. So it was a very valid question, but we found that we do not need to add another section that says, well, go find them, because we've already found them, essentially. So we don't need to find them again. So this clean version does have the other point that we added from the previous one, which says this point is recursive and can be applied multiple times until all monies are fully expended, just so that's 100% clear. That did stay in there. And also the other changes we made from, lunch to include meals where breakfast was applied.
Tom, so I agree with the sentiment. I think that paragraph addresses the issue as I understood it.
Yep.
The grammar is a little bit off in that sentence. It makes it seem like families are determining if a student is otherwise directly certified, because it's families that will be notified and determine if, so we just need to maybe put a comma there and say, and the school department or the school nutrition program will determine if a student is, or we need to change it to say, the school nutrition program will notify families weekly if their account is negative and determine if right? Like the actor in this needs to be the school nutrition program, I guess is what I'm saying.
I like the latter.
Yeah, so I think if we pull school nutrition program to the front of the sentence, will notify families weekly if their account is negative and determine if a student is, et cetera, et cetera.
So, actually, this has not changed track, so let me go to the other one. Share it back again. Okay, Okay, so this version is the change track version. I'll zoom in again so we can see it. Okay, and we want to say the school
Nutrition program will notify families weekly.
will notify families weekly if their account.
I think school nutrition program is like MGL language, right? Yeah.
Should be department, right?
Well, the department is the function, but school nutrition program is like what it's formally called in all of the guiding MGL language, I think is,
We have the reference, so we can look at it real quick
Yeah.
if we need to, so.
will notify families if their account is negative. Yeah.
Program was what was there before, so it's definitely not wrong to have program. Yeah, Office of Food and Nutrition Programs, if you click on the, and I'm not sharing that, but that's what it's called, program. The school nutrition department will work together with the school administration in a joint effort to contact parents, guardians, so,
Oh, I see. Yeah, we do call it department. Yeah. Essentially everywhere else in the,
the department has a program, so the department is doing the notification. The program is how we actually execute what's happening or provide the stuff.
right.
Okay? So let's read it again. The school nutrition department will notify families if their account is negative and determine if a student is otherwise directly certified, categorically eligible, or income eligible for free or reduced price meals within 30 days of notifying a household with unpaid meal debt.
We'll notify families weekly, right?
Good.
Good catch.
Right. So, just so we're seeing the other updates from the previous week, we have meals was changed before, reduced meals, reduced meals. We took out the previous one, and we have this point as recursive, applied to their accounts was part of that as well. If monies remain, it's point 2 as well, so let's be consistent. If monies remain from any donation after they're all student eligible or covered, the same proration split will be done between students currently eligible for reduced meals and who have debt from
Reduced
before,
price.
reduced price.
Reduce price and, yeah.
And then, yeah, happens again below it.
I'll check 1 as well. Free meals, so that's good.
While we're doing grammar, can I be pedantic on number 4, I think it is, and just, can we spell out school nutrition department? I think it's abbreviated department, sorry, number 5. Computer's about to take off.
Yep. Okay. See if there's anything else it wants to do. Accept that. Dismiss. 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 Whoops, undo. Oh, undo. Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything anyone else wants to suggest, review, ask questions about? Dr. Corum, could you, yeah.
Jeffrey Corum, Ridge Road. The only last question I have is that the held for 60 days, whether you want to say held for up to 60 days or something, just to so that the policy doesn't prevent you from revisiting it if you want to in 30 days.
So I'll defer that question, Susan, to you from a practicality perspective and how frequently we would want to go through this process and how quickly debts can be incurred or not that would apply.
You know, I'd have to speak with the Director of Food Service to understand what the operational practices are and burden.
Well, I think the addition of up to doesn't
Require you to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't
but it gives
infer
you the
any additional
flexibility to
burden.
do so.
It just provides flexibility to do it on a different time frame if it's appropriate or necessary for some reason. So I guess I would ask the question, is there any harm? Is there any harm in doing up to 60 days?
Well, I guess just to play it out a little bit, if we do up to 60 days, then theoretically, somebody could be asking for their account to be zeroed out every single day. And then if one person's asking and you have other people that are applicable, then you've got to go through it every single day for somebody if that person's asking.
Well, what's the avenue in the policy that allows somebody just by asking to trigger the process to run anew?
There isn't necessarily, but I would have a hard, if somebody were asked, I think we'd have a hard time saying no.
Our response could be, we run that process every 60 days.
And they would come back and say, you run it up to every 60 days, so run it for me today. I mean, there's nothing that says they'd have to, but it could become a little bit, of a challenge to challenge it. So I'm happy to, I don't know that I want to say it has to be 60 days, but I also want to protect the potential of having to run it every single day if, we're not in the business of saying no very often. And so I'm a little bit worried that we would put ourselves in a bind of saying, well, we're not going to say no when they're asking, even though there's nothing that says they can ask. They're asking, so there's nothing that says we won't do it. So I don't know if there's, be held, for between 30 and 60 days, or, something that gives some degree of protection for every week, every day type run of it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't feel that strongly about it. We can always revisit the policy if we're finding that there are use cases where it needs to happen more frequently than within 60 days. I don't know what others think.
I don't know what.
I think we also talked about.
For this.
I was going to say, we also talked about this last time. This is one of those policies that, it sort of exists for kind of a non-existent problem, I think, for the most part. So, not that debts are non-existent, but that these donations we're trying to figure out what to do with, I think, are relatively non-existent. So,
And lunch is still free.
and lunch is currently free. Yep.
I feel like you're going to accumulate more debt if we ever go back to a point where every piece of every lunch has to be paid for. Then I could see debt accruing faster. Right now, it's like, oh, your kid wanted an extra bag of chips or wanted a second meal, then, but it's like a much smaller accrual over time.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so I think we already made the motion, but we'll take it as amended, sort of on the floor here for the vote.
If there's any objections to the amendments, right?
Yeah, we'll take them all as friendly amendments, I suppose. Okay. All in favor of adopting the policy as amended here on the floor? All opposed, and it carries 5-0. Okay. All right. Tom, do you want to give a prelude to the next four, and then we'll run through the procedural piece?
Sure. The prelude to the next four is, as part of the policy subcommittee's first meeting, we talked about kind of building a catalog of policy changes that have happened by MASC or others over the last, and/or that were requested by our administrative team as part of our process. We built that catalog, and we have about 48 or 49 policies in that list to attack throughout the year. Some of them, the four that are included here, two that we've already done and one more that will be coming later this year, are brand new to our policy manual. We don't have them at all. Many of them are related to recent legislation and/or recent reviews by MASC of their own policy manual. So the two DEs are related to financial review related updates that they've done. The JICK is related to the most recent articles of 2022 with regards to protections for hair. And GCF is evading me exactly, but it's one that we don't have as well. So ultimately, it's to catch us up and get us in line with the standard policy. GCF is professional staff hiring, which is kind of crazy that we don't have that one. So some of these are basic principles that we need to put in place, but all of this is related to us reviewing and catching up with changes over the last few years. There's still more that we haven't put on that list because we kept ourselves more or less to 2020 and beyond, but we'll go back and look through others as necessary.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, maybe, I'll ask a blanket question, and then we can get into the procedural stuff and see if there are questions about anything in particular. Maybe not for tonight, but before we take our second reading, if any of these policies institute any like operational concerns that our current practices or current procedures are not, consistent, I think it'd be helpful to know that, just so we can evaluate whether our current practices and procedures are preferred for our district or not.
Can I answer that real quick?
Sure, yeah.
So each one of these policies, plus the other one that's coming forward, was sent to the administration team to have them look through it and see if there was any concerns for exactly that reason. And no concerns were raised yet. Doesn't mean that a second review might not cause, something else to be flagged, and we certainly welcome that feedback. But so far, they have reviewed it, and there have not been any concerns.
Very good. Okay, why don't we start with the readings? And I've got one that I've just got one quick observation on, and we can see if anybody else has as well. So we can start with DEC. Carla?
Federal funds supplement, not supplant.
Move to waive the reading of DEC.
Second.
Aaron and Chuck waiving the reading. And all in favor of waiving the reading? Okay, that carries 5-0. Just one comment. Oh, sorry, it's on the next one. I take it back. Any comments on this one before we move on? Okay. DKC.
Expense reimbursements.
Move to waive the reading of policy DKC.
Chuck?
Second, sorry.
I'm going to give it to Chuck. It's going to make our minutes much easier. Yep. Okay, all in favor of waiving the reading on DKC? Okay, 5-0. Tom, just one observation. Based on, yep, thank you.
Got it already.
Okay. Any other comments on DKC for the first reading? The second to last line, there's a letter
Based
missing.
O.
Yeah, okay. Carla, if we could do GCF, please.
Professional staff hiring.
Move to waive the reading of policy GCF.
Aaron and Chuck, detecting a pattern. All in favor? Okay, and all opposed, 5-0, we'll waive the reading. And then any comments on this one from a first reading perspective before we?
The only comment I'll raise is that before we finalize this, we should remove the note that school committees may determine the size and composition of screening. I don't think that's just kind of a MASC thing that I missed in the first review of things to adjust, as well as, we don't usually say source MASC August 2022, so we'll just clean that up as well.
Where are you, Tom?
On GCF at the bottom of the policy,
Right.
if you scroll below the legal refs, there's a thing that says note this, school committees may
Yep.
determine the size. If we want to include that, then we should put it up there. There's no reason to leave something as a note at the bottom.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
And then we don't usually also say source MASC August 2022.
It may be worth, we've had an informal practice of the school committee being engaged on the composition of screening committees for things like principals, for assistant superintendents, for a number of other roles. It may be worth us thinking about in the second reading if we want to sort of be explicit about where we want that to be the case versus where it can be, sort of optional or case by case for the superintendent to consider. And obviously we'd invite any perspective you all would have on that, but you've generally engaged us on the sort of the key hires anyway, but we may want to codify that as long as it's going to have a policy that's this close to that topic anyway.
I like that because that wasn't always
No.
the procedure, so.
Okay. All right, so we can,
I can take a first stab at it.
yeah, I think that would be helpful. Maybe just by starting to capture sort of what our practice has been over the last couple of years, and, yeah, okay,
Put number 4 in there or something like that.
okay. All right, any other comments on the first reading for GCF? Okay, and then Carla, if we could start with JICK, please.
Harassment of students.
Move to waive the reading of policy JICK.
Aaron and Chuck, all in favor of waiving the reading? 5-0. Any discussion on this one?
There's one item that we caught in our recent review of other things that I would say we want to do. We took away the comma between pregnancy and or for pregnancy-related condition in a previous other thing, because it really is a combined thing. So I would say I suggest we take away that comma, which is in the second or third paragraph of the policy, second paragraph of the policy. Third sentence down, or third line down, it says pregnancy, comma, or pregnancy-related condition, comma. We just said that is one group, and that's how the law reads as well, is it's one group.
Right.
Go ahead, Carla.
I have a question. So we have harassment policies. This doesn't conflict with any of them.
Nope. In fact, it adds
It
to it.
adds-
It adds strength to it.
Yeah, okay.
Because this also adds, in particular, employee to student harassment, which doesn't really exist strongly in some of our other places. And so this one, adds a little bit of teeth in that space
And
too.
I don't remember student-to-student harassment being listed.
I think it's implied in a lot of the
Yeah.
basic harassment policies. But
Not
this is
called out.
also in the student section of the policy, so it's both protecting students and explicitly, calling out, any harassment between students as well.
Tom, I wonder if this is one where it makes sense to, float, I'll call it a clean version with these edits incorporated, a clean version by Dr. Chatterjee, just to see if there's a perspective that we're missing, given that this is, this implies civil rights considerations and Title IX implications, and it's got, obviously all the protected class elements is in there as well. I know that this is obviously based on model policy and has gone through, council review and things like that. But it might be in that category of policies where just having somebody sort of trained in these matters take a second look might be valuable. She might say it looks great. I don't know. But just a consideration.
I can ask her, any other adjustments she makes, we can put it back through, and then you and I can discuss whether
Yeah.
it's ready for second reading at the
Yeah.
next meeting or not. It's pretty straightforward, but all the matter, we should make sure we're careful.
And it's had legal review, correct? Which,
Yeah, I mean, so if she suggests anything, substantive, we'll want to put it through legal counsel again to make sure that the language is all correct and that sort of thing. She's not an attorney, but it's just a different lens on these topics. Aaron?
So other technological methods, that encompasses all forms of social media? Are we agreeing do we feel that is explicit enough?
What would you propose we go with instead? I guess, just so everybody else is aware, the new ones do not go before the policy subcommittee. They come directly here. So thank you for asking the question. I just want to make sure everybody else knew that coming in, so.
That I hadn't
You
seen it
hadn't
as a
seen it
policy.
yet.
Right, yeah, okay. I don't know, it just seems very broad, and I feel like that's where a lot
So
of,
people can see it as well, but keep going. Sorry, Aaron.
one of the biggest issues that our kids are facing is cyberbullying and harassment is on various social media avenues. So I just want to make sure that we feel that this properly encompasses that.
I mean, other technological methods to me is pretty open-ended, so I'm struggling to think of a form of social media or cyberbullying that wouldn't be encompassed there. And I take this parenthetical to mean you can't make the argument that, a TikTok or a tweet or a whatever else the kids are using these days is not written or verbal, because it's not on a piece of paper, it's not spoken word. So to me, this would seem to encompass all the sort of forms of social media or cyberbullying or, other kind of electronic harassment that you can imagine. But I don't know, maybe we're not thinking expansively enough.
Were you thinking of something, Aaron?
Social media, I think is you're thinking, social media.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like social media is the more sort of recognized term and is definitely encompassing, but I also just am sort of speaking aloud. Do we, I can be persuaded that you feel that I just wouldn't want someone to come back and be like, it was on Snapchat, it doesn't count.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could add social media. I would think about something like, what about like a WhatsApp message? Like, I don't know if that's a text message, it's not a blog, right? But it falls into that bucket of other technological methods. So I think keeping that language is probably important. But if we wanted to explicitly call out social media,
Could you put in the word any or any other?
I think it's duplicative, it's unnecessary. You could, I think I'm right in between you two. And I think I'm with Aaron, because blogging you can tell this was written by an adult.
Like, who's harassing on a blog?
I do think, and in fact, I see that as a common theme through some of the MASC stuff, that they kind of use blogging as kind of this all-encompassing thing. But I think there is a difference between, social media, and that is what our kids will see, and that's what they'll be talking about. But I do like to leave as well, Sean, the or other. I don't want to take away that thing, but I'm of the opinion that explicitly adding social media there does call it out a little bit more directly. And social media is a wide enough lens that it covers things like, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You just keep going down the list, whatever the newest one is today.
Discord, we feel like Discord is covered because it's technology.
yeah.
It's a big one. It's
Yeah,
happening during
Discord,
school.
Twitch, any of,
Slack.
I think any of those things would fall under that umbrella
Okay.
of technological methods.
Yeah, we can't name them explicitly because they'll change
No,
tomorrow.
yeah. Again, I just want to make sure we
Yep.
feel they're all covered because they are all being used during the school day.
Okay. Anything else on this one before we conclude our first reading? Okay, so we will likely see all these again in 3 weeks or so, and we'll go from there.
I guess I have one minor note for you.
Please.
The cross-reference at the bottom, non-discrimination policy against harassment and retaliation, is the new name for AC that we will see in January. Our AC does not currently mean that right now, but presuming we continue to move forward and we make the changes in AC as well, we'll see that new name and we'll be okay. But that does call for us to go back and adjust a bunch of other cross-references as well, so FYI, we'll do that.
Okay, that concludes our business tonight. Is there anything else is there anything else up to and including a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn by Aaron, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Tom, all in favor? All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.